Okay, everybody, how you doing? My name is James. I'm with King's Fine Woodworking. Today we thought we'd do a little live broadcast and talk about a couple of options, a couple things we have coming up. Okay, everybody, how you doing? My name is James. I'm with King's Fine Woodworking. Today we thought we'd do a little live broadcast. So we were supposed to mute those, but give us a second here. We're getting straightened out. Hey, Michael from Alabama. Virgil, Jonathan, we got a few people already joined in saying hi. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about, we'll just let a few more people populate the channel here and see what's happening. Austin, Texas. Nice. If anybody has any questions, you can ask questions right there, and we'll try to answer them in real time for you. Angry Architecture, how you doing? So let me introduce everybody here. My name is James. You know that. This is Mike.
Hi.
Michael Long. He has he's been a woodworker for quite a while. He has a woodworking channel, and I put a link to his channel in the description below. He works out of Colorado Springs, and the gentleman on my left here is Sean Smithson. He's a fairly new woodworker. He has a wood shop in Longmont, and he also has a YouTube channel, and I have a link to his YouTube channel in the description as well, so you can check them out. If you don't go to the, if you don't want to go to the description, if you hover over channel in the description as well, so you can. If you hover over their name when they type things in the chat, then it'll give you a link to their channel that way too. Gregor Anda from Norway, how you doing? And Scott from Cumming, Georgia, and JJ from Atlanta, Georgia. Lukova, I guess that's how you say that, maybe.
Which one?
Right here.
Lukuva, yeah.
Lukuva.
So.
Raphael from Maryland. Chris Sport. Hamad, how you doing? Hello from Virginia. Willie from Chicago. Awesome. Maryland. My speaker's going to kill me today here. See how I can minimize that. Okay. Can't stay watching the NASCAR race. Okay, no problem. Go watch that NASCAR race. You can catch this later anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later.
This is Don from, okay. From
Iran.
Chile. Iran. Nice, from Iran. What's up? Okay, so we're going to talk about some beginning projects that the new woodworker can do if you don't have a lot of experience. We kind of came up with some ideas, and these are projects that a lot of us started with when we first started doing woodworking. One of the first things I did was a birdhouse with my daughter, and it's a real easy project. It's something you can pick up like a 1x8 piece of lumber like pine from a big box store, Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's pretty easy to cut those up. We actually do have plans for a birdhouse. I'm going to put those up on our website right after the show here. And so what do you think? What's a good woodworking project for a beginner, Mike?
Well, one of the first projects I did when I first started was a spice rack. You get a 1x4, 1x6, and you can actually cut it with a handsaw and just use standard little butt joints to put it together and take a little piece and put it across the front, and that holds your spices on and hang it on the wall.
Cool. What do you think? What's a good project for a beginner, or what was one of the early things you did where maybe for something with for somebody with not a lot of tools?
My first project with not a lot of tools, I made a bench.
A bench.
And used no wood or glue for it. Just did some tenon joints.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so an outdoor woodworking bench, that's a good idea. So Daddy Big J Dog wants a shout out. How you doing? Sean from Canada. Javier from Cancun, Mexico. We have people from all over the place, huh?
Yeah.
Argentina, Federico Prieto.
Chile and
yep. Seattle, Washington, Brett. Woodland, Washington, Matt. Awesome. I didn't know if we were going to see 10 people on the chat today or not. I had no idea who I would show up. That's cool. All right, so we can, and if anybody has any woodworking questions, we're happy to answer those. So some of the projects we came up with, another thing that's really popular is a bat house. There's millions of plans online, depending on what state you live in. Obviously, there are different bat species in different places in the U.S. And so figure out what state you're in. You can go online, look up plans for bat houses. They're usually free. That kind of helps out the bats. It's a really good project for a beginner. So what else? We got any other ideas?
What was the one Sean mentioned?
The bench.
The bench?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously you can do a birdhouse. I mean, that's a typical high school workshop project right there. I mean, I've seen a lot of different people take different routes with the birdhouses, and it's fairly simple. It's I don't know what to say right now. Honestly, it's a simple project. You hear about people, the first woodworking project being that, or maybe even I didn't even think about this when we're doing the list, but a doghouse.
Oh, a doghouse. Doghouse is really good. Yeah. Yeah, doghouse is a very simple project to build, and you can get all of your lumber at a big box store for that. All right, so let's see. From Tasmania, Australia. Go ahead.
I think I saw one question on there. Someone was asking about how to fill a gap on a large slab.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so slabs is pretty easy to fill gaps with epoxy. You can get, there's a number of different types of epoxy out there. We use West Systems epoxy, but almost all epoxies are made the same. When it comes to woodworkers, if you're not a woodworker, it's different. They've got high temperature epoxies for aerospace industry. They've got marine epoxies for boats that it can withstand the UV rays and salt water. But for the woodworker, all we care about is that it's cheap and that it's epoxy, because the strength and the temperature resistance, they're all about the same. So I would fill that with epoxy. If you use an epoxy filler in it, you're going to create something that's thick, maybe like peanut butter. That way it'll go in there and it's not going to run all over the place. But if your splits are big or you expect them to get bigger, then you're going to want to probably put some butterflies across the split so it doesn't get any worse.
I just saw someone put up, I think it was Jeff Medley. Yeah. What's a good wood putty brand? Well, me personally, I prefer Timbermate because it's easy to mix. It's easy to go in. It takes stain real well. And it comes in all kinds of colors. I think it's an Australian brand, and James can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because I'm sure he knows more than I do. But I love the stuff. I pick it up at Woodcraft, Rockler, and the only color I can't find it in yet, Timbermate, you might want to work on this, is Purple Heart. But everything else, it blends real well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good wood putty. A lot of times if I don't have to use wood putty, I can just get sawdust for whatever wood species I'm using, mix that with some glue like Type Bond glue, any woodworking glue, and we can use that as a putty as well. But sometimes putty is just plain easy. Yeah, it works well.
Yeah, he's the one that asked about the slab.
Oh, right. Side cracks. Cracks on the side of the slab. Boy, I don't know. I'd almost have to send a picture. If anybody has any specifics, if you send us an email, I can certainly answer that. We answer dozens of emails every day. So Chris wants to know why I always over glue. That's a good question. I don't know. Probably because Type Bond sent me a 55-gallon drum and I've got to use it up before it goes bad.
I use a little more glue than I'm supposed to, too. I don't use quite as much as James does, but I use a little more. And I have actually had glue joints fail on me in the past. And when I started using a little bit more glue and taking a little bit more time, that problem went away. And someone over here just pointed out to me that someone mentioned a toolbox as a first build for a good beginner project.
Yeah, a toolbox is a good project. So somebody wants to know what my thoughts are on buying quality tools for the weekend warrior. Should they spend money on better tools or buy cheaper tools to start with and replace as needed? That's a tough question, and I think everybody's going to have a different opinion on that. That's hard to say. I started with cheaper tools, but it turned out I really liked woodworking, and so I regretted when I had to upgrade because I inevitably lost money. But if you don't know if you're going to like woodworking, then you don't know that you want to go out and spend $100 on a drill and $150 or $200 on a circular saw and things like that. Especially when it comes to table saws and stuff, you could spend many thousands on a saw stop, for example. Or you can buy a Delta, contractor saw starting at maybe $600. So that's a tough question. If you don't know if you're going to like woodworking or you don't know if you're going to do much, I guess I would probably go with the cheaper tools first. What do you guys think?
I'm curious to hear what Sean says.
Yeah. So Sean just went all out. Sean set up a whole shop. He didn't do a whole lot of woodworking, I think, beforehand, and he got a table saw, jointer, belt sander, or drum sander, everything. So what do you think? What do you think about buying cheap tools versus expensive?
Certain tools you can go cheap with, but if you want quality products like the jointer and the drum sander I got, those were stuff that I wanted to get because I knew that I would get quality work out of it, and I wouldn't be fighting it with something that was cheaper.
Right.
So that was my thought process on that.
So if you guys can't hear Sean, he talks a little quiet. Let us know, and if you can't hear Mike because he's a little bit far from the microphone, let us know, and we'll try to adjust that. So Jonathan's got a good point. Yeah, you can sell the cheaper tools on Craigslist, and help other people get started. Yep. You can also get tools on Craigslist for yourself. You don't have to get new. I'm a big fan of new because if a tool breaks, I don't really like to deal with it. So if I were to start on a budget and I didn't know if I liked woodworking, I would go to Home Depot. I would maybe get some Ryobi tools. I would get some Rigid tools. Nice thing about Rigid is they have a lifetime warranty. Sean is a big fan of Rigid, and Rigid makes quality tools. It's not on the caliber of, say, a Festool where you're going to pay $1,000 for a router, but you don't really need to do that anyway, obviously. But yeah, so those are some good options.
Never go cheap on your table saw, miter, or joiner. That's Chris.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with you on that. I would. My first joiner that I ever owned, I got a Q-Tech. It was a new company. It still is a fairly new company. And honestly, it was a little bit less money than, say, a Bosch or a Delta. But honestly, it was well worth the money. But yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't go cheap on, if you're going to do fine woodworking especially, I wouldn't go cheap on the table saw, the joiner, or the planer, or a miter saw even. Yeah, like you mentioned there. But when I started out, or actually I should say when I started back into doing this because I took a break for a while, I had a circular saw, speed square, and what I call a beater chisel. It's a 1-inch DeWalt chisel, and I beat that thing to death. But I built an arbor out of it with just those 3 tools and a tape measure. That was it. And so yeah, I mean you can buy cheaper, lower cost tools. I don't want to say cheaper because the insinuation with it. But you can buy lower cost tools, and then when you get your skill level gets up a little higher, you can go spend a little bit more money and you get a better tool. And one thing that I buy, if I don't know what router bit I'm going to need, I'll go and I'll get the cheap set of the little set of router bits, and I'll figure out which one I'm going to be using the most of. Then I'll go buy a more expensive one of that particular bit. That's one way to save yourself a little bit of money. Like James said, you can buy tools on Craigslist, and yeah, I mean, just get the tool you need for the job you're currently working on. If you can't do it with anything else you have, then you go buy a new tool. Other than that, try and use the tools you have.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions about planers and jointers.
Table saw blade.
And table saw blade. Oh yeah, so table saw blade. So personally, I think the best table saw blade on the market is the Forest Woodworker 2. They're guaranteed to within just a few thousandths of an inch, 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch. Most table saw blades that are made that you buy at the big box store are only accurate to about 20 thousandths of an inch. So if you buy yourself a quality blade like the Forest Woodworker 2, they'll resharpen it for you at Forest, and that's a blade that'll last a lifetime. It makes a huge difference when you move up to a quality blade. Your table saw can be mediocre, and you put a quality blade on it, and suddenly you can cut big, thick blocks of wood without any trouble. So let's talk about the jointer and the planer, for example. So, and some people earlier had asked if I thought that they were essential. If you're going to do fine woodworking at some point, you should probably get a jointer. And as far as which to get first, jointer or planer, they really go hand in hand. If you're gonna have rough timber, then you're gonna have to joint one face flat and then put it through the planer to get the other side parallel to that. So you really kind of need both. So Jonathan wants to know, for reference, do I consider the DeWalt 735 planer cheap? So cheap is kind of a bad word. I guess I was trying to mean inexpensive, but the DeWalt 735 is a very good planer, but it is an inexpensive one. Because when we go from there, we move into stationary tools. Everybody has them, Grizzly, Jet, Powermatic, and we typically go to a 15-inch stationary from there, and we go from a $500 tool up to maybe a $1,500 tool. So the smaller planers, I do consider those a little bit less expensive for sure. The DeWalt 735 is fantastic. Another one that's really fantastic is the Rigid. I have used the Rigid 13-inch planer. It's actually really good quality. It's far better than the DeWalt lunchbox style planer. So,
I have one.
all right. So yeah, what's? Oh, JP. I didn't even see him. JP Brown. There he is. Sweet. Oh yeah, Sean's got a message for you, JP. Can you read this? This is Sean. This is Sean's message. He says he touched your mallet. So Ryan's got a DeWalt 735. He says it works well. I don't own one. I have seen them used. I've been in the same room when they've been used. I haven't personally used it, but they have a lot of really good reviews. I'm a big DeWalt fan, so I know they work well.
Okay, advice on clamp size, style, and how many?
Clamp size, style, and how many? So
that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
That's a big question too, right? When you're starting out, let's start at the top. The best clamp you can buy is a parallel clamp. It doesn't really matter if you get a Bessie or a Jet. There's a few people that make them. Parallel clamp is the best, but you're going to pay $40 to $60 per clamp. If you can wait until Christmas to buy your clamps, usually on Black Friday for one day, there are a few clamp manufacturers will put the clamps on big sale, like nearly half price. So that's kind of a good time to wait. So a lot of people can't start with parallel clamps. So just the ordinary ratchet clamps, F-style clamps, those are pretty good. I always buy them in pairs. You need, 4 to 8 clamps to get any project done, and you can never have too many clamps. So just buy. Slowly over time. I've been woodworking for a long time. I don't know how many we have total, maybe 100. I'm not sure, but it's something that I've bought over a long period of time. Didn't just go out and buy it all at once.
The first clamps I started out with were the DeWalt squeeze clamps, and they worked great at the time. And obviously, I've stepped up since then. Oh yeah, you got some down here, don't you?
Yeah.
And they come in multiple sizes. This is not the smallest they make, but it's close to it. But yeah, these are the type that I started out with, and they worked great at the time. And obviously, as my skill got higher, and I started working on bigger and more difficult things, and obviously, I got into the clutch clamps and the F-style clamps. And now I finally have 4 parallel clamps my wife got me for Christmas last year. I love those things. Yeah. But he's absolutely right. You can never have enough clamps. Yeah, these are cheap too. These are the clutch style clamps. And you can get these DeWalts or Bessies at Home Depot, a 4-pack for like $15 to $20. They'll clamp small things together, but they're good and they're cheap. And I can't know if I can say your name. BRAC Bracknogard. Bessie 50-inch K-body Revos are $40 at Home Depot. That's right. They're $40 Home Depot everywhere, and Home Depot is the best place to buy them. Unfortunately, they only sell the 50s and the 30s.
The 30s.
I think the 30s. Yeah, they only sell 2 sizes, but they're priced really well. Just shim like there's no tomorrow. Irwin clamps are great. Irwin clamps are better than DeWalt, Jonathan. I don't have them because I think they didn't make them when I bought these. I don't know. Irwin clamps are just a little bit better. I've had a couple in the past. If I were to go buy a set today, I'd buy a set of Irwin. I would agree. Pipe clamps. What's that? I would agree with that. Yeah. Irwin's better than DeWalt. All right, so pipe clamps. Pipe clamps are good. Pipe clamps are an inexpensive way to glue bigger things together like tabletops. A pipe clamp, you buy the pipe clamp, the body, the mechanism for it, and then you buy the pipe to whatever length you want. Here's a little secret. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and you can buy that the cold rolled steel pipe, the 3/4 inch pipe, and they'll cut it to length for you, and they'll thread it for free. So if you pick out the 10-foot lengths, I think maybe they have 21-foot lengths, don't they? I don't know. They do. But I have one caveat to that. Yeah. My Home Depot that's close to my house, they got rid of their threading machine and they will not thread it anymore. Oh, okay. So it's going to be Home Depot dependent. Yeah. So you have to check. Yeah, I know ours does. And see how that works. But yeah, they're good. They're inexpensive. I do buy the galvanized pipe clamps because if you get the black pipe, and you get glue on it on your wood, it's going to rust, and you're going to get black spots on the wood. You can sand it off, but if you have the galvanized, you can avoid that step. So Jimmy Face. Hi, James. Love your work. True Craftsman. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Somebody asked about wood.
Somebody asked, well, where do I buy premium lumber? So if you live in a big city, you probably will have a hardwood dealer in your town. If you don't live in a big city, you're probably going to have to buy mail order if you want hardwood species. If you live in the eastern half of the country, you might be able to find a sawmill near you that cuts hardwoods, and you might be able to get a deal through them. So it really just kind of depends on where you're at. Another option is Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. There's a lot of people that sell lumber on those. Be careful. You want to make sure that if somebody's selling you lumber they say is dried, you want to be able to check it and make sure it's dried before you use it to build furniture with.
And if you don't mind having it shipped to your house, you can actually, I can't think of the name of the company. The one online company. Bell Forest.
Oh yeah, Bell Forest. There's a
Yeah.
lot. Hearn Hardwoods, Bell Forest Products, West Penn Hardwoods. There's several. I'll put some links in the description when this is over to 5 or 6 of the places that I use online. If there's some I can't find here, we deal with a lot of exotics. So if I can't find an exotic I need, I order it online.
And Brandon Ogburn said you only need one. Going back to the pipe clench,
Oh,
you
yeah.
need one.
Right. You only got to have
That's
one
true.
end threaded. Yeah, because the other side's got a clutch and it slides up and down.
Ken Craft will ship. Yes, they
Ken
will.
Craft will ship. Yep. Patrick, what's up, Patrick? How you doing, buddy? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I should mention we have a Facebook community. You guys probably already know about it. I have no idea, but it's a King's Fine Woodworking community. If you are interested, you can join the group. I'll put the link in the description later. And it's a woodworkers helping woodworkers. If you ever have a question, you can put a question. You'll get lots of answers for your question. I'm on there every day. These guys are on there every day, answering questions, helping people out. Whenever there's sales, I get sometimes advance notice of sales from different manufacturers. I put it on there, so that's it's a good resource. Dumpster dive, Michael Dimmers, dumpster dive for old hardwood furniture and dismantle and recycle. Hey, that's what Matthias does, right? Everybody knows about Matthias Wandel.
Yep.
I don't think he pays for wood. Hey, Brandon thinks it's the best group ever. Right on, Brandon.
How you doing, Muhammad?
Yep, Muhammad. Great page. Cool. And Fernando from San Pablo, Mexico City. Awesome. Okay, so what else are we going to talk about? We have a mallet. No, yeah. So a challenge.
Yeah.
A challenge. Here it is. I got it. All right. So this is like the first ever challenge we've had. I'll put a link to this in the on our Facebook page as well. It goes out to everybody. You don't have to be, a subscriber or anything like that. If you build a mallet and submit a picture of it to us or a video to us, we're going to have just a little contest, and then the winner of the contest will get one of our Thor's Hammer woodworking mallets as a grand prize. And if you happen to be a YouTuber and you put videos on YouTube, then everybody who submits a video, I'll put a link to your YouTube channel in the winning contest for the mallet. So if 50 of you put a mallet together and send me the video, I'll put a link to it. So it might be a good way for you to get some exposure. And if you don't have a YouTube channel, that's cool too. We'll mention you on air and we'll show a picture of your mallet off. But there's no rules. What? Oh, yeah. Oh, so you have to have it submitted before the end of July. That's the deal. So by July 31st, you got to send pictures in. You can post them. I'll put an email address where to send those to in the description below. Also, we'll have a link for that. And so build a mallet. It can be a round mallet, like a wood carving mallet. You turn on a lathe. It can be plywood. It can be exotic wood. It can be a Thor's Hammer style, like the one I make. Anything at all. It could be a deadblow, where you drill it out and fill it with lead shot. So any mallet you can think of. Just don't touch JP's mallet. JP, nobody touched your mallet. You're good. JP had ordered some special mallets from us here, and he's very particular. He wants them to come with no fingerprints to his house. Somebody from Oman. Awesome. Muhammad World.
Muhammad asked where are you from. Muhammad, if you're asking us, we all three of us live in Colorado. James is in Denver. I'm in Colorado Springs, and Sean is in Longmont. So,
Steve, you got a notification for the test, but not the actual live. I don't know how to control that, unfortunately. Patrick, does it need to be a wooden mallet to enter? Yeah, man, you're a woodworker, Patrick. It's got to be wood. I mean, it could be plywood, but it's got to have wood in it. What do you want to do? You want to build a plastic one, Patrick? So Patrick's workshop. He's a good friend of mine. He has a YouTube channel also. He builds everything. He's got a CNC machine too. Builds all kinds of stuff. Can you recommend a jig for properly replacing 8-inch jointer blades? Jimmy, I can't because I haven't had fixed blades like that for a long time. I have spiral cutter, but I'll look that up. If you're in our group, you can post that question. And I think a lot of people in the group have 8-inch jointers, and they use the jigs for that. So you use Grizzly just about everything, but they have many price options. Do you recommend them? And do you know if they're cheaper options and still have good build quality? So here's my take on Grizzly. Grizzly makes good quality tools for a really good price. It depends on what specifically. They had a hollow chisel mortiser I was not very happy with. I have a low-end Grizzly lathe that's good, but not great. I think the table saw is fantastic. I think and I've used several of those. I think their band saws are fantastic. I think their drill presses are pretty good, but not great. As far as price goes, though, nobody beats Grizzly for price for the quality of tool that you get, and they have fantastic customer service. At least that's my experience. If I've ever had a problem, they handle it immediately. In fact, the first time I bought a big 15-inch planer from them, it came out with some gears broken, and they sent me a new planer, and then let me take my time to package up the old one and send it back. And didn't charge me twice. They were pretty cool about it. So Patrick, what did he say? Doesn't need. Oh, he already said that.
Patrick said,
"Are you a mind reader?" Yes.
No, he's a time traveler.
I'm a time traveler, right? Do you use drop dead mallet? I don't use it. I don't use deadblow mallets.
I do.
He does.
Yeah, I do have a deadblow. I have actually 3 of James's Thor's mallets, and I'm hoping to get a 4th one soon. But I also have a deadblow, and the reason I have the deadblow is because a lot of times if I'm making drawers or dovetail drawers out of plywood, James's hammers are great, but sometimes it'll actually break the plywood if I hit it a little too hard with it or something. Whereas the deadblow, I can tap it and still get a good bit more pressure on it, and it doesn't damage it quite as often. Is what I'm trying to say. Now, James's hammers, you could probably put a piece of leather on the head or something, and that would soften the blow some. I just haven't done that yet. So I've got a dead blow. That's one of the first mallet I had. And so, yeah, I use them.
Yeah, so Ryan wants to, so the 3D print, I think that's fair. I think as long as there's some component of it that's wood, that's fine.
I think we can all 3 agree that 3D printing on wood and CNC is woodworking.
Well, you can't 3D print wood because it's
Right,
like melts plastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he 3D prints the head,
Right.
he can put a wooden
Put a
handle.
wooden handle on it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
Yeah, but yeah, we all agree for sure. CNC stuff, that's woodworking. That's fine. Okay, Patrick, the contest starts today. You got to have your submissions in by July 31st. So you have to email a picture or email me a link to your video by July 31st. And I'm gonna make it a nice mallet. It'd be a good prize to win, I think. So if I had to buy a new drill press, what would I go with? I don't know. What was that? Is that Nova that makes that one?
Yeah, Nova.
Nova. So I haven't researched it, but Nova makes a drill press that's digital. So it has a digital speed control. If you're familiar with drill presses, you have to change the gears in the top in order to change the speed, and that gets tedious. Sometimes I go from a 3-inch diameter Forstner bit to a regular bit, and I've got to change several gears to get that speed. Whereas with the Nova, you can just dial in the speed. That sounds really handy. It's a little expensive. What's that, about $1,300?
Yeah. Yeah.
About $1,300.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Anyway,
12, 13.
12, 13. So it's for an equivalent size drill press, it's more money, nearly double, maybe 1.5 times price, but it's awfully convenient. So if the quality is there, I would probably go for that. Yeah, Steve does stuff. Any material, as long as it's got wood in it. So Steve's going to make something out of steel, and he's going to tape a piece of wood to the top.
Well, I can imagine somebody taking an epoxy with a piece of wood in the middle of it and doing it that way.
Yeah, probably. Cool beans, I'm down to play. All right, Patrick, I want to see what you come up with. Yeah, the Nova DVR drill press. That's right.
What do you recommend to restore an old block plane?
I don't know, Chris. I don't do that. You have to ask in our group. You guys have ever restored old planes?
I haven't. I'm not sure if Mel has or not, but Mel likes hand tools. He uses a lot of them.
So you got to go to our group. I don't know. Rupa, can you put a link to the group here? Steve does. James, stop stealing my designs. Well, man, it sounds like you're building too slow. The first one to publish gets it, right? Well, what design did I steal? I don't even know. And I don't think so. I'm pretty original.
James built my dream table here. I've been working on a design like this for a long time, and he built it before I did. So
now I did take Polk's workbench and his idea, and I put holes in my bench for cubby holes. So I definitely took that from him. I think I gave him credit for it in the video. I thought I did, but.
Scott says I need a bandsaw. Looking to buy one that I will not have to upgrade for a while. Recommendation.
Depends on your budget.
Yeah, and what size you're looking for also.
14 inch is a good general bandsaw. Grizzly makes a decent one in that range. Laguna makes a real good one. Laguna's a lot more money than Grizzly. So, I mean, do you want to spend 500 or do you want to spend, what's the Laguna, 1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just kind of depends on your budget, really.
Yeah, the 1412.
Yeah, the Laguna 1412 is a fantastic bandsaw. It's better than the Grizzly in that same size range, but it's more money. Oh yeah, Paul Sellers has a good video.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, Paul Sellers works a lot with hand tools also.
Yeah, Paul Sellers is great. I love his channel. Yeah, steel hammer with wood taped to the top. All right, Steve, we'll see. We're gonna pick a group of woodworkers to judge it, so you should win, I think. How much of throat clearance? Well, I don't know. That 14 inch is pretty good. That's a pretty good general size. It works for most people.
Favorite brand of hand planes? Well, James doesn't work with hand tools much. I have looked at hand tools, and honestly, everybody has their favorite brand, and I kind of fell in love with the Wood River, believe it or not.
That's what I use.
They're accurate. They're dead on. Lee Nelson makes a lot of good hand tools also. I think it's Lee Nelson.
Yeah.
And a lot of people love their stuff, but I actually kind of like the Wood River stuff for my personal use.
Yeah, I use Wood River too. I think they're great, but I don't use them enough to need a really high dollar one. So let's see. Send a picture to my email, james@kingsfinewoodworking.com, or post a picture in the group. And let's see. So Steve does stuff, says Francisco is insulted. So my daughter, Maya, actually bought the bandsaw that we have herself. So she named it Francisco. And Francisco's not insulted because Francisco is a Grizzly Extreme Series tool, and that's a very high-end bandsaw. So Francisco's exempt from the Grizzly not being as good as the Laguna. If you go with the Grizzly Extreme Series, it's pretty darn good. Yes, Mohammed, learn English so you can follow us better. That'll help out. And then you have to teach me your language. I don't know what language you speak, but you can teach me. Let's see. Somebody asked about the Woodworking 101 class. Okay, guys, listen, I really apologize. This Woodworking 101 class that we started, I actually do have two more videos fully filmed and one nearly filmed. Then we had a Father's Day sale on mallets, and it just killed us. We thought we would sell maybe 25 or 50, and we ended up selling over 200. And so I couldn't put out videos when I've got, orders that people have spent money on. So we've been working on those night and day. Actually, within a few days, the last of them will all ship. 4 to 5 days, I'm hoping. The last of them will all ship, and we're going to get back on videos. I'm going to try to get caught back up with the Woodworking 101 class. So everybody who's been waiting on that, I'm really sorry, but we'll try to get back on track as fast as we can.
You want to address that one? Or?
Let's see. This one, the extension?
No.
I want to blow it?
I can't pronounce his name. But,
Heute ein König. I don't know what that means. That's your name. Heute means today in German, I think. I bought one of your walnut mallets and love it, but I'd like to make one myself. Is there any place to buy lignum? Well, if you're in Germany, I don't know where you're at. If you're in the U.S., I don't know. I bought all the lignum. Yeah, you're going to get mad at me. I bought all the lignum from all the suppliers in the United States I could find. So
Why
I don't.
think I asked if you wanted to trade.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You're gonna have to keep looking. Now, if you're out of the country, you might still get access to it. If you email me, I'll just sell you a piece of mine, one of my pieces at cost, what I paid for it, which is cheaper than what you can get it for. Plus shipping. Yeah, you got to pay shipping. So the shipping's not much.
The best hand tools are the ones you can afford and are willing to turn. That's absolutely right.
Yep. Veritas, they do have good planes. Will I post an email address for the contest? Yes, I will. I'll put it in the link. And then in the description, I'll put a link to it.
I believe those.
Community address.
Oh, you did? You did?
Facebook address is on there.
Okay.
Have you had experience with the rigid joiner?
No, I
I
haven't.
don't know what brand yours is.
Grizzly.
Grizzly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So none of us have had experience with a rigid jointer. If it's the same quality as the rigid planer, it's probably pretty good. The rigid planer is really good. I was surprised. We had a rigid planer here for a short while, and it worked great. So
And I did find out, for those of you thinking about the rigid planer or the joiner, that you can actually order the helical head for them if you wanted to go that route. You know, you can spend $300-400 on the planer, and then another $350 for the helical head. That you can get them. I don't remember the name of the company, but I'll find it out and I'll put it down in the comment.
Sheelix.
Sheelix.
Yeah. It's Sheelix. Let me see if I can put it in here. Sheelix, that's the name of it.
Yeah. But they are available for the rigids.
Tune, yeah. Jerome just finished a mallet last week. Nice. Send us pictures, Jerome. Post them. A good way to get started on hand tools, this is from Lukuva, is to find antique ones and restore them. You're likely to find them cheaper. And it'll teach you the ins and outs of how they work. Yeah, I've heard that.
Exactly.
I have heard that to be true. I have not tried it.
Well, I believe it to be true because of some of the stuff I've done in the past. I've actually learned more taking things apart than I did working with them. So, yeah, I agree with that. They actually do still make the rigid joiners. Home Depot still carries them. You have to order them online, but I believe they do still make them.
Hoyto and Krennig, today a king. Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. Portland, Oregon. Okay, so you'll have to email me if you can't find any lignum out there. You have to shoot me an email.
Favorite belt sander?
Favorite belt sander? You're talking about handheld, Eric? Favorite belt sander? I don't know if you're talking about handheld or stationary. You got to let us know. If you're talking about handheld, mine's rigid, and I love it. It's fantastic. I had it 2 years. This is Black & Decker. Oh, I have a 30-year-old Black & Decker one here that still works great. Oh, Brett's on the page right now. He says not sold in stores or online.
Boy.
Well, that's sad. Jerome, yes. Sapili. I went online and said it was mahogany. I have used it. Yes, I used it in a box, and I have the video shot, but I don't have the video edited yet. When we made our miter spline and dovetail jig, one of the boxes, I put the dovetails made of it from you. The wood came from you, and I also made the lid out of it. So you actually have a mention in that video. The video's filmed, but I haven't edited it yet. So that's coming out.
So Brett's saying linking from the rigid site takes me to the same not in stock page. Well, that I didn't know. Obviously, they I guess they have stopped making it, which Rigid's doing that right now. They're changing a few things around, and they're stopping to make some of the stuff they used to make. So that doesn't surprise me, but it's a shame because I'm sure it was a good joiner.
Yeah. So proper procedure for squaring wood, that's really going to depend. If you're talking about sheet goods or you're talking about like a leg for a table, they're dramatically different procedures. But if you ask again and let us know, we'll answer that. If Craig jigs are for sale in the Netherlands, I don't have any idea. If you can get it on Amazon, if you can get on the UK Amazon, I think you can get it. How did I get my kids so interested? I tricked them. I told them it was fun. No, if you build them something, then they'll want to come build something themselves. You know, let them help. I think it's automatic. I think kids just They love building things and doing things. Whatever their parents do, they like doing too. Oh, there's the photo bomber. She got her way into this shot too. Love the shop furniture. What's a?
And thank you, fishing.
What's next for a project?
Fishing with salmon.
Oh yeah. Yep. See you later. Cool. He follows you probably, huh?
Yeah, I think
Nice. Cool. So love the shop furniture. What's the next project? Oh, next project. Well, one project's a secret. The three of us are doing together as a collab. We have an outdoor project after that. We're actually building a hobbit hole. It's going to be pretty sweet. We have a desk coming up made of 8-quarter Pacific Coast curly maple. What else do we have? I don't know. I don't think we have anything. We are going to do a Rubo bench out of actually curly maple and exotic wood, a big, real high-end project. But that's slated for the end of summer. So that'll be the next shop project.
You could 3D print from pulp like a particle board.
Yeah, you could. I suppose so. You might have to custom build the print head for that, Steve.
Fishing with Salmo. Okay.
He's got to go. Salmo, that's the scientific name of the trout and salmon species. Salmo garanderi, that's the rainbow trout, in case you're wondering. Probably not wondering. Looking forward to it. All right. Oh, yeah, about the plans for assembly table. Just got started on it last week. Awesome, Brian. You got to send us pictures.
Yes.
How about a swinging bench? That'd be a good idea. I should do that.
Yeah.
I built a glider before, something like that, like a porch glider, except it had a frame as opposed to hanging and swinging. Stationary. Oh, I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what that means either. Eric, what do you mean by stationary?
Yeah, what do you mean by stationary? Oh, stationary sander.
Okay.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Let's see. So belt sander, probably a really good one is the. I don't have one, but the rigid. You have it, don't you? Yes, they both have the rigid.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's like an
that's great.
oscillating, so it goes up and down in addition to going around the belt. So it's great.
And the rigid actually has the largest work table of all the ones that I shop for. I've looked at the Wind spindle sander and a couple of others, and the rigid is the only one that I know of that has the oscillating belt sander as well as the spindle part. And the work table on it is actually larger than any of the others that I shop for.
Cool.
Right.
Okay, JJ wants to know what was each of our most challenging woodworking project.
Let's start with Sean.
So what's the most challenging thing you built so far?
I've had a few, but I'd probably say the first bench I did.
First bench?
Yeah, because I was new to it, really didn't know what I was doing, but went for it. So without barely any tools, so that was challenging. Cutting the holes for the tenons with a hacksaw blade, because that's what I had.
With a hacksaw blade.
Yeah.
I watched your video, but I don't remember that. Okay, so I guess mine. Well, right now it's the wine rack that I'm building. For those of you that have watched my channel, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm currently building a wine rack. It was a commission piece, and I designed it, and the customer wanted it in Purple Heart, so I've been cutting a lot of Purple Heart, and I've run into some snags. So, but yeah, if you're on my channel, I'll go into more detail on the video about it. But that's probably the toughest one I've done to date, only because it's taken me so long, and I'm having to change my plans as I go, I guess. So, what about you, James?
So I can't really think of the toughest thing I've built in all the years I've been doing woodworking. The toughest thing I built in the last couple of years was the sleigh bed. I put a video out for that. I had to turn. I had to create some round cylinders, 4 and 5 inch diameter cylinders for the sleigh bed, and everything was custom curves and compound angles, things that had to fit together. So that was pretty challenging. I think that was probably the toughest thing I built recently that comes to memory. And let's see. So, huh?
Say hi to Felix.
Felix, where's Felix? Oh, Felix, hey, what's happening? Right on. Felix was one of our very first subscribers a long time ago. Well, been a year and a half now, huh?
I believe Steve.
What is a glider?
Somebody
Somebody
watched
asked
really
that.
maple.
Oh yeah, no, I had never found. Well, I found somebody who had a 30-inch piece, but they wanted like $5,000 for it, so I never found what I wanted. So I've got a different plan to piece it together. Scott wants to know the cost of the workbench, the assembly table I just built. I haven't added it up, but I'm scared to because I put, the Purple Heart and every piece of plywood is Baltic birch, the highest grade of Baltic birch, and it's got some expensive hardware. So I don't know. It's over $1,000, I think. But I also think this table could be built for half that, maybe less than half. So I think I'll add it up, and I'll add up what I spent, and I'll add up what a person could spend, because you don't need to buy plywood that's $80 a sheet. You can buy plywood that's $30 a sheet, and it will work every bit as good as this. You don't need to put curly maple around the outside of this. You don't even have to put a hardwood around the outside of it. I'm tapping it, but you can't see it. I can see it. It's right here. There's a lot of ways to save money. I put very expensive casters on it because I want it to be very heavy. So, yeah, I know we spent over $1,000. I don't know how much over. Maybe 300 or 400 over. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll add it up and I'll post that.
Chris Port wants to know what's
a glider. A glider is just like a porch swing, except the bench part you sit on attaches to a frame that's mounted on either side of it. So it just kind of swings back and forth with a smaller arc. Maybe it more or less glides forward and backward. Yes, Scott, definitely build one. I have plans, or you can just tackle it on your own. If you watch the video, well, I guess there's more than one video in there.
So, stationary sanders.
Yeah, we answered him because I asked him what he meant by that. By stationary sanders. Yeah, Win. So Win. Oops, I lost where we were. Win also has an oscillating belt.
And Minwax.
Minwax was purchased by Lowe's.
Oh yeah. They're talking about Home Depot stopping, clearing out all their Minwax products. That's very true. They are.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They're switching to the Verathane, I think.
Portal Woodworks. You build gliders, yeah. Kingsland Woodworking Community, cool.
Oh, okay. Are any of you coming to the IWF next month?
No, I'm not.
No, my son is in basic training right now, and he actually graduates from basic in the middle of August. So I'm not going to be able to make it there either. I don't know about John.
I won't be able to make it.
I'm gonna try to go
Good
next
answer.
year, but I've never been.
Yeah.
I've never been to any woodworking show. I would like to.
That's very true. Don't get too cheap on your plywood. Sometimes you can find good stuff at the home centers. I haven't had much luck with that. Typically, I get either Baltic birch, or my local hardwood dealer has this stuff called Craftsman's birch, and I love the stuff. It's pretty. It takes a stain well. It takes lacquer, and it cuts great. It cuts just as well as Baltic birch, but it's not quite as expensive. It's a little bit cheaper. And I can get it in 4x8 sheets, whereas if I want 4x8 sheets of Baltic birch, I have to come all the way up here to Denver and go to Austin Hardwoods for that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't go too cheap on your plywood, because the plies, I have seen the plies come apart, and a lot of the cheaper lower end plywood will actually warp and twist.
Yep. So congrats to your son, Mike, and
Thank you.
thank him for serving. Excellent. Okay, plywood's expensive everywhere too. It may be more in New York, but it is getting costly, that's for sure. One that I've had good luck with is it's called sanded pine plywood from Home Depot. There isn't a link to it online, but if you have a local Home Depot store, you can go and ask for it. And I think it's about $34 a sheet right now. It doesn't delaminate very easily. It's a pretty good product. It's very smooth. It doesn't really have knots. It's a very nice product to work with. If you've seen our videos, my miter station was made out of it. Our lathe table cabinet was made out of it. We've made quite a few things out of that particular plywood. Okay, so I think we're going to try to wrap it up in about 10 minutes. If anybody has any more questions. Jonatos from Brazil, thank you. Thank you for watching. So Ordinary Woodworkers, there's a fencing supplier near me that sells 3/4 finished pine plywood for $35 a sheet. Oh, that's nice. Yep, that's fantastic for garage cabinets. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do think Home Depot is better plywood than Lowe's. I'm not going to get into that.
That might even be dependent on where you're at. Different states carry different stuff for sure. So planning on using a workbench and decide if he wants to use Craig track in addition to dog holes. Do I feel it's worth the investment? I don't know. I haven't used it enough to tell. I only maybe used the track once, and it's a lot of money to put in the track, so I'm not sure. I also bought Rockler's like intersection kit. It's like about $25, I think, for the four pieces that come together to make an intersection. And I'm wondering if I could just take the aluminum and cut the miters on my chop saw, because you can cut aluminum really well on the chop saw. So if I did this again, I would make my own joints there. But yeah, I don't really know if it's going to be worth the investment until I've used it for a little while.
Someone's asked, when gluing up half boards, how do you keep them from bucking in the clamps?
From buckling half boards. I'm not sure
Buckling.
what you mean by that. You'll have to get more specific. I'm sorry. Chris Jingle from Cocoa, Florida. So not quite sure what you mean.
Maybe going like that when they're gluing up two boards.
Oh, okay. Well, you need to put a
That's what you're talking about, calls?
yeah, probably.
Yeah, I would use calls.
Yeah, so if you're talking about when you glue the boards up like this and you clamp them, if they buckle up or down, you can put a caul. So if this is like this, you can put a board across the top and above, across the bottom and clamp those together.
Oh, bowing at the joint like for a tabletop. Yeah.
Yeah, so you need cauls.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need type that in CAULS, Rupa. You need cauls. You can look that up. It's just you just use a piece of wood. You can buy them, but I just use a piece of wood when I'm doing that.
I want to answer the next one. Did you make it through that drum of glue? No, he has not yet. He's trying to give it away to all of us.
Yeah, we got half of that drum left, believe it or not, and we gave away a bunch. So it's good stuff, though. That's very nice of Titebond, actually. We don't have any sponsors except for Titebond. They sent us that. I've been using Titebond since I started woodworking. We started woodworking and right at the end of 1985. So that's all I've ever used. They didn't have Titebond 2 and 3 and all that fancy stuff back then. Now they do. So yeah, I've always used Titebond, and I've used it a lot, and they just decided to give us some. So I actually told them the only thing I'd be interested in was a 55-gallon drum, and I didn't think they would go for it, but they did. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Andrew Hayden, I want to buy hardwood and I live near Pueblo. I buy S4S popper for big box store. Where to go in Denver, and even better, Colorado Springs. I don't have joiners, so S4S seems good but expensive. You're absolutely right. S4S is going to be a lot more expensive. There's several videos out there on how to make a joiner sled for your table saw, if that would be an option for you. I go to CO Lumber in Colorado Springs, but a lot of times I'll make the trip up here to Denver and go to Paxton or Austin like James does.
Yeah, S4S is way too much money. Yeah, you got to try to. You can joint it with a router. You can take a router, put a router fence down at the edge of the board, and then get a straight cutter, and you can cut the edge of the board like that. That acts as a jointer. If you have a quality blade on your table saw, like the Forced Woodworker 2 that I talked about, and you buy S3S, which is flat top and bottom and one side straight, then you can put that straight side against your fence. You can cut the other side, and with a Forced Woodworker 2, it's straight enough and smooth enough and clean enough that it'll act like a jointed surface, and it will glue up fine.
Send quick video updates just to keep us informed. I'm addicted to your content. That's for you.
Yeah, it says video updates. You got to join. You got to join the Facebook group. I try to post what I'm doing on that Facebook group all the time. I try to post stuff on Instagram. My daughter does most of the posting on Instagram also, so people can check it out there. When I've tried to put little things on YouTube, people get irritated because it's not a project build. So I don't think YouTube's a good place for it, but I do post little video updates a lot on Facebook.
It's now 2:53.
Wow, you stayed awake until 3 a.m. on Sunday to say hi. That's
Extended
awesome.
on German. Guten Morgen.
Alf, yeah, guten Morgen. Awesome.
Send in link, great info here. Any plans of doing a combined wood acrylic project?
I do have a wood acrylic project planned,
And
but
I have one as well.
he does too, yeah. So you'll have to stay tuned. I don't have all the details worked out yet. Recap the contest rules. Okay, so contest rules is a mallet. It's got to have wood in it. So if somebody wanted to 3D print the head, which is fine, but basically a wooden mallet, or at least have wood in it, any style, any shape, any size. It could be like a round turned on your lathe wood carver's mallet. It can be something like the Thor's hammer woodworking mallet that we sell. It could be a traditional mallet. Anything you want. It can be a deadblow, and we'll give extra bonus points for creativity and function. If it works well and it looks beautiful, then that's cool. It can be any wood that you want as well. Plywood's fine. So it's entirely up to you. So all you have to do is submit a picture of it, and I'm going to put a link for what email I want that sent to in the description as soon as we're done. And send us a picture of it if you have a video. If you happen to be a YouTuber and you've got a video, send us a link to the video, and I will put a link to your video on our channel during that video, so everybody can get some free exposure there. And if you don't have a YouTube channel, send a picture, and then we'll show off all the pictures in the video. Contest ends July 31st, so make sure you have your pictures or your videos emailed to us by July 31st.
And Chris, one further. What finish would you suggest for outdoor Adirondack chairs?
Oh, okay. Well, ideally, you would not finish them. You would maybe make them out of cedar and just put some sort of an oil on them. But if you want to finish them, the very best finish you can use would be something like a spar urethane. Spar urethane is going to have UV blockers in it, so it's going to last the longest. But once you go down that road of putting a film finish on it, it's something you're going to have to upkeep every few years. But that's the very best finish that you can put is a spar urethane. Okay, that's strange.
And which Chris Port again? Which router is your favorite?
Oh, that's hard to say, man. I have 9 routers. I like them all. I don't want to get rid of any of them. I use a big Porter cable in my 3 1/4 horsepower in my router tables. For handheld, I use a Bosch and a DeWalt. I like both of those quite a bit. For a trim router, I use a rigid. I've had Black & Decker. I don't know. I like them all. I guess a good starting router, if you don't have one, would be something like the Bosch. I have a link to it. I can put a link to here after we're done. They make one that's it's a combination fixed handle and plunge. So you take the motor out, put it in the plunge base, take the motor back out, put it in the fixed base. That kind of gives you everything, and it's 2 1/4 horse, so it has enough power to go on a router table. And it could be a plunge router or a fixed router. So one router can serve all of your purposes until you branch out and get a specialized router for each thing.
It's don't make the same mistake I did. I bought the rigid router. It's a great router, don't get me wrong, but they don't make a plunge base for it. And there's going to be times when you're going to want a plunge base. I have the DeWalt right now, but the DeWalt or the Bosch, like James is suggesting, would be a good first router to have. You definitely want something with a plunge base on it.
Yeah.
What do you use for a router?
Rigid.
Rigid.
Both of them. Trim router.
And full size router?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a plunge router?
No.
Rack. I use a
Need
lot
one.
of purple hard as well. JJ, I'm going to be using lacquer on it, and then I'm going to top that off with a spar varnish or spar urethane, because once I get the purple back into the Purple Heart, I'm a little brownish at the moment, but once I get the purple back into it, I want it to stay that way forever. So I'm going to put about 5 or 6 coats of lacquer on it, and then I'm going to top that off with a spar.
Yeah, all exotics are going to tend to lose their color as time goes by because they're going to oxidize. So if you can put a finish on them, like a top coat that's got a UV blocker, because ultraviolet is what's going to cause that to occur. So if you can put a UV blocker on it, you'll keep the color.
One router to rule them all. I don't think there is one. I bought the Bosch kit you linked on your Amazon store, and so
Yeah.
far I really like it.
Yeah, the Bosch kit is pretty good. It covers all your bases, or most all of your bases, so it's pretty handy for that.
What about that Festool router?
Well, Festool's good. Festool's a lot of money.
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend that to a beginner, simply because it is
Sure.
a lot of money out the gate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't already know what Festool is, Festool is a line of woodworking tools for professional contractors, and they're very high quality tools, but they come with a pretty steep price tag. So a quality router from them is about $1,000, whereas the equivalent router that can do about the same thing that can is going to run you about $200 if it's not a Festool. So it's a big price increase for Festool. Is it worth it? That's really up to the person buying it, I suppose.
Mhm.
I don't own much Festool myself. Yeah, the F word.
Brandon says ugly F word.
Yeah.
Well, you have to reapply the spar urethane again over time. If you're talking about mine, no, I shouldn't, because it's going to be indoors. It's not going to get the weather on it. But if you're talking about the outdoor thing, yes, you will. Especially here in Colorado, where the weather just beats on everything that's outside. You will have to reapply that every 1 to 2 years.
Yep. Okay. So anything else you guys want to say?
No, I mean, those of you that haven't watched my channel. Anyway, those of you that haven't watched my channel yet, please, I'd love it if you tune in. If you like what you see, click on subscribe. I'm doing an awesome 100 subscriber giveaway when I reach 100 subscribers. These two guys have seen it already, so you can ask them. And but other than that, yeah, I really enjoyed doing this, and we'll see what we can do about doing it again sometime.
Yeah.
Cool.
Beginner wood glue. Type Bond 3, Eric.
Yep. Type Bond 3. It's good. It covers all your bases.
Yeah.
It's got the slowest open time, longest open time, so it's the slowest cure time. So, you can make some mistakes with it, and you'll be okay. You can do your glue up slower, and you'll be okay. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. So I have links to both their channels, to Mike's channel and Sean's channel, in the description. You can go check out their channels and subscribe to them if you like what they're doing. And that's it. We'll see you next time we put out a video.
One more thing.
Yes.
If we didn't get to your question, if you have another question that pops up, just go on the King's Fine Woodworking Community Facebook page and ask any one of us. There's a lot of great there's a lot of great guys and gals in there, and all of us would be happy to answer any of your questions. So, yeah, I guess that's it. So until next time, guys.
Yep.
See you later.
All right. Thanks
Thank you.
for tuning in.